Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are going to recap some quick points about our previous video on dopamine and self-control and how that plays out in your life. But the main point of this video today is we wanted to get into gratitude and gratitude journaling more specifically, and the positive effect that that can have on your life and affect your mental state for in a good way going forward. So stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome in. My name's Coach Chris.
And I'm Tami Tomlinson, owner of Living Life Now.
Welcome to our channel where we discuss.
Integrative approaches and healthier living.
Anyways, I think last time we spoke, we were talking a little bit more about dopamine and self-control and some keys to try to help you on your journey from both myself and Tammy's experience and some research we shared. If you haven't seen that video, I would tell you to go and check it out because it's a great tool for learning. Um, I really find it fascinating. The research is fascinating, and the implications of it, I think, are far-reaching, especially for anyone that's trying to change their life for the better and make progress. Tammy, what do you got for us today before we belt into this? Anything new and exciting with you?
Stay in the course. I think I've landed on my word for the year. Sometimes people do the word for the year, they do their vision boards and goals and all of these other things that I know we've kind of touched on from time to time, but I don't know that we've gone to a word. But I've landed on balance. Balance
Yeah,
seems to be a good thing because I feel like I need to be balanced in work life, home life, extracurricular life. So, balance, that's where I am at the moment. Balance and remaining grateful and keeping up
yeah,
with that
absolutely. Absolutely. I
gratitude
completely,
journaling. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's we chatted just briefly before we hopped on here, guys, and that's what we wanted to kind of spill into today. Last time we did talk about like social media and media in general, video games and how that pertains to like your dopamine and just different things that can mess with your dopamine, which is a hormone in your body. But that hormone in your body has huge implications to your ability to work and display like things like attributes like self-control. But I made a few notes before I jumped on here. I was talking to Tammy about it. And one of the things, like since we were talking about video games last time and how this spills into like what we're going to be talking about today, which is, gratitude and what to kind of do with that. Specifically, gratitude journaling is perception. And perception is a very powerful thing. And in regards to our previous topic, one of the things I was thinking about is how I've had clients and I've seen people, even myself. I will just use myself as an example. There was a time in my life where I would say, addicted to video games. And while I was addicted to video games, I would complain about, say, working for 6 to 8 hours, which I was getting a paycheck for, which paid for my computer, which put a roof over my head, which, put food in my belly because it wasn't me being able to go and come home at night and spend another 10 hours playing video games, get only 6 hours of sleep and I would literally have nothing to show for that. Nothing at all. And what was the difference between video games and work that was actually productive for my life? Nothing. They're both work. It's just how I perceive one versus the other. I would perceive one as something that I wanted to do and entertaining versus the other one was something I had to do, and was an obligation, something that, like I didn't value apparently. And so that's one thing that I wanted to kind of call out is
But
perception. Like, go ahead, Tammy.
yeah, but so sometimes I think people use the video games, and I don't know if this is what you were experiencing at that point in time, but as like escapism from reality,
Right.
And now with games, all of the virtual reality and the augmented reality, and you get to play with other people from all over, all around the world.
Right.
Um, it's kind of like you get to take a step back from your real life and step
Right.
into a make-believe situation. And so during that time frame, do you think that's what you were doing, or what was the fascination or the pull to want to sit and play video games for 10 hours? Because I've not I've not done that. That's not
Right.
in I just have never
Right.
done, I don't own a PlayStation or an Xbox or
Right.
any of those kinds of things, which I know could be a travesty, but I don't. So,
Right. Right. Right.
so what do you
No.
think about
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of,
Yeah. No, it's a great question. Honestly, like at that point in my life, I really want to say that it it was a form of entertainment for me, and also like a form of community, but community in a way that I felt comfortable because just with my upbringing and just moving around a lot, I never was able to form like deep connections. And so sometimes, and my father actually, he's a great guy, but he never really modeled for me like intimate relationships. So that's, I think, something that's probably that really made me susceptible to the games I was playing. Actually, were just exactly what you're talking about. They were massive multiplayer online role-playing games. So like there were these games that you could play with people from all around the world, doing different things. And so that was that. So, but definitely entertainment, definitely some sort of social, interaction. The other thing though, at the time, like I didn't really realize was, and now I do because I know the research behind it, was just it was it was easy. It was an easy way to get that gratification of doing something. And let's face it, like things like work, things like educating ourselves, those types of things generally take a good period of time. And it's normal. But things like video games generally fulfill that gap with short-term things. Like you can reach short-term goals much faster or reach goals much faster typically in a video game, and they program them that way, and they know that they can program them that way to keep our attention. So I
mhm.
think knowing what I know now, that was probably the third main underlying reason because my satisfaction with work and things of that nature didn't go up significantly until I stopped playing video games.
Well, and similarly though, social media, right? I mean, the goal of the social media platforms, from my understanding, is to keep users engaged and on the platform.
Correct.
So, if you have enough content or enough friends or whatever it may be on these different social media platforms, then you're engaging again with people from all around the world. And in some ways, circling back to your dopamine conversation, right? It's a short term gratification, but it's not really a true fulfilling way to live life,
Yeah, absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. Yes, that's a great call out. That actually kind of flows right into, what I was thinking, the second point that I made. So it's cool that you just brought that up, Tammy. Um, which is movies and like, things like social media. A lot of times people will do those things in the form of like what we call entertainment. And yes, you're correct. Like they are wired to like keep us on it, wired to give us like those dopamine kicks, like we chatted about in our last video that really, want dopamine like has this effect on it that keeps us wanting to come back to those things. That's why it's in our system, is to kind of keep us coming back to things. Now, generally, like we evolved around these things being healthy, but things like social media and entertainment in general triggers these releases, in a way we don't have to work for them. And so this is generally where these things become unhealthy. But the other perception that I wanted to chat about with social media and media in general, or say TV or entertainment, is there's really not a huge difference between those things and things like, taking the time to educate yourself. So, for example, I can sit down in front of the TV and watch a movie, or I can sit down on YouTube and look up something that's good for coaching, or learning about, taking the time to like go through research websites and learn about the topics that I want, or just, and well, I guess that's really it. That again, though, it
Yeah,
comes back to perception.
exactly. But I'm thinking, so we're talking about dopamine and we're talking about these external sources that people are using and relying on to help fuel the dopamine in their lives. But we've already established and identified that they're not the healthiest forms, right?
Correct.
So
Yeah,
playing video,
absolutely.
spending all of our time literally spinning our wheels, flipping through different websites, not websites, but social media
It
platforms
could be
or
websites. It
whatever.
could be websites. Yeah.
What is a more healthy way for people to satisfy their dopamine levels? Does that make sense? I mean, what's something that we could do individually to help be more fulfilled or feel more fulfilled to
Hmm.
keep ourselves happier and content in other areas and moving away from the areas that might not be as healthy, even though they feel fulfilling. It's a short-term
Right.
solution and it's not
Right.
giving us a long-term gain.
Right. Right.
What's a couple of thoughts?
Couple of thoughts. The first thing, like, just to kind of reference our previous video, is that as we chatted about in our previous video, dopamine is kind of like a precursor to motivation and self-control. So having like a good baseline of dopamine in your system, which we didn't really talk about that in the previous video, but having a good baseline of dopamine in your system will help you stay much more motivated, and will give you the motivation or the willingness to say work. So, like you were just saying, like there's these unhealthy things in our life, and we chatted about this in the last video. We need to, if you're recognizing like things like your motivation and such are waning, then most likely it could be like a dopamine issue, especially if you're spending a lot of time on media, a lot of time entertaining yourself, a lot of time consuming things like alcohol, or spending time doing things that would trigger these excitement responses or these enjoyment responses in your system. Now, you have to come away from those things, slowly, especially if you recognize they're an issue. I mean, you can do cold turkey, but that's going to be pretty brutal because you don't have anything in the tank yet to kind of fulfill like these same like cravings. Now, what these things would look like naturally, like having goals that, especially actionable goals that lead to an outcome. So, for example, like if you study for X amount of hours and you pass your test, you're going to experience a dopamine response to that. But again, these things, need to be implemented over time, and say like setting goals around your exercise, and maybe have things to measure that. These things, as you achieve your goals, you're going to get that kick of dopamine. That's what it's there for, to keep you kind of coming back, keep you, but used in the right way.
Hmm.
As you build these things, like especially with actionable goals, like, oh, I'm going to walk X amount of time a day. Oh, I'm going to exercise for this. Oh, I'm going to do these types of things with my food. And you meet those goals. One, you'll notice it's like salt, like when you start taking salt out, everything seems bland. But after a while, the flavor starts to return to your food. If you've never had that experience, it's pretty gnarly. But yes, your taste literally adapts to the amount of salt and sweetness you actually put in your food. And as you pull it back out, you'll start to naturally start to recover some of that flavor. It's the same with these types of things as well. You know, the realistic things, the things that actually will move you forward in life, will gain more flavor in your life, so to speak, as you slowly pull out the stuff like social media, video games, like alcohol, other things that are kind of like piquing your dopamine, and start implementing these other healthy things, these other healthy goals in your life, and working towards achieving real things. I will let you walk us into the gratitude portion of this, and this kind of like this kind of an area to kind of help us refocus, like while we're in this transitionary period.
Absolutely. So just start with a positive, grateful thought. I'm grateful that I have a car to drive to wherever I need to go that works. I'm grateful that I'm able to eat the foods that serve my body well. I'm grateful for X. Anything, start with something that you're grateful for, that you're sincerely grateful for. And as you continue, maybe just for the first week or two, come up with a thought that you're grateful for. And then as you continue, you can start moving into a gratitude journal and you come up with three things. It goes a long way, and I think it'll help. I know it helps me feel better, and I'm sure it will, help somebody else feel better too. If you just take a couple of moments, it doesn't take a long time, but shift that thought from a negative to a positive, and then look for something that you're grateful for.
Well, I'm going to back that one up with, because you know how I like the research, but
Yes.
gratitude journaling, and we're talking about actual like medical studies. You can look these studies up on PubMed. The PubMed ID on this particular one is 375-85888. And so, uh, gratitude, in this particular study, they shown the outcome of the study. You can read the entire study. We'll put it in the notes underneath. But they said that it has several implications over time. Uh, a logical relationship has been established between gratitude and well-being. Gratitude journaling has been shown to help people and show significant improvement in these areas, like anxiety, depression, and also just people that are generally healthy improve their mental health and well-being. So it's a powerful tool. And I want to give myself again as an example on this, and with the power of gratitude. I remember when I wasn't doing very well in business. Like my business was really not great. And we're talking about both photography and health coaching. Like things were struggling, like I was struggling. And it just seemed like that life was really hard. Like things were really, really difficult at that time. And I just decided, I really needed to get back on doing my gratitude journaling, and telling myself, like, starting off the day like with things that I was thankful for. And so it started off with just me like sitting out having coffee and being like, I'm just thankful for the time, that I have a roof over my head, and for the time to be able to enjoy this moment. Nowadays it's just like it's spilled into like, like I'm thankful for my animals. I'm thankful for my wife. I'm thankful for, like the job that I have, regardless of like the money I'm making. Like I'm thankful for the opportunity and the ability to, and the health to do all those things. And the list goes on and on and on. So long that I sometimes I'll spend like, 15 minutes myself just, just in the mornings, like saying to myself like what I'm grateful for and what I'm thankful for. Um, but this made a huge impact in how I was viewing my situation. Like I could tell, like just within a few days, like of me deciding to make this commitment to get back on my gratitude journaling, I just felt so much better. I felt like I would find myself slipping into like these things where I was focusing on the problems or focusing on like my ability to overcome the problems, and feeling overwhelmed, to just being like, look, like, just being like, okay, like, but I have so much to be grateful for. My mind automatically started to kind of transition and kind of like fight off these thoughts. And I would just be more focused on the good, just with that little bit of time every morning. And I've also seen the same thing play out in reverse. I have clients, and I had a friend of mine, like he was fine before. He went through like a hard relationship. He wasn't on medications and stuff before. And he went, through a hard relationship. He came out of the relationship. Even with my background in coaching, it was really tough to talk to him because all he was focusing on was the negativity in his life, but he had so much going for him. Like he had a great job, he had great family, he had great friends. Like he had a lot of things. He had his own house, he had a nice car. He had so much around him perceptively that people could see for him to be grateful for, yet he recognized none of it because the only thing he was focusing on was what he didn't have. And so it's like the opposite can hold true too, and Tam and I were discussing this, which, like she's talking about the power of gratitude. We talked about the study that talks about, that gets into like the power of gratitude journaling. But the thing is what we focus on grows. And so if you're focusing on things that you're grateful for, then expect that life is going to take on something different. That you're going to start seeing more things to be grateful for. And that has been my experience. That has been the experience of clients that I've challenged to do this. But if you're focusing on what you don't have and the negative things in your life, well, then you can ultimately, because of how we know psychology works, generally you're going to see that that is going to take root and that you're going to be more focused on the negative. Tami, you got anything on that?
Yes, what we think about, we bring about, right? Same concept, just said a little bit using different words, same thought process. What we think about, we bring about. So if we're thinking more positive thoughts, more positive, putting more positive energy into our thinking rather than putting the negative in there, reframing the thought, reframing the statement. And also, what came to mind is affirmations. So I know that there's not been a big talk with us about affirmations, but I have a series of like a grouping of 5 words that I say. And when I do that, when I start my day with my um, joyful, energetic, healthy body, for example, is one of them. When I say that, it really helps. And if I can start my days with my series of affirmations that I wrote for myself, it helps to set the tone for the day, right? And then it also shifts the
Tami,
thinking.
you know what? I want to interrupt you on that because I think like that topic right there deserves like a full video.
We can do
Um,
that.
yeah, so I think we are already, I think, almost at 30 minutes
We
on this
we are way
video.
at our time, I am sure, but
Right.
yes, it's a plan. We'll make it happen.
All right, cool. Well, I guess do you have anything else to add before we end this video today?
No, I don't. I don't. Thank you for tuning in and listening and joining us each and every episode that we post. We are enjoying this journey, and we hope that those who tune in also are enjoying. And yeah, just lift us all up. Let's all be grateful for the things that we have, and don't even spend any time worrying about things that we might not have.
Yes, I would second that. I would challenge you guys to walk away from this video. And if you haven't watched our previous video, I would urge you to go check that one out. We will put that one in the description as well. But I would urge you guys to if you're not gratitude journaling right now, to just spend some time and just like Tami said, just try to write down, maybe 3 things that you're thankful for and feel positivity around, and do that every day and see how it impacts, and maybe you can grow that and expand that like I have, but see how that affects your life. But anyways, guys, we will catch you later. I will see you on the flip side.
And a little minor thought, let us know in the comments if you try this approach and the positive changes that you happen to see in your life. So thanks so much.